But my beats, they are hard.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bcsn SportsWrap. I'm Bryan Fulford, my partner right there in the backcourt, AD Drew. AD, you know, I will admit, I honestly thought that a wide receiver winning the Heisman Trophy would be the strangest thing that I would see this week. But it is not.
I'm sorry. I can't help but laugh.
Look, we're recording this on a day when just chaos broke out in the nation's capital, and I thought the Heisman votes and a wide receiver winning that award was the craziest thing I'd see this week. Explain either, because both of them just stumped the hell out of me.
All right, let's stick with the sports first.
Okay.
The fact that Alabama had 3 of the top 5 Heisman Trophy vote recipients, should be the story.
Should be
the story.
Yeah.
The fact that a wide receiver won should not be the top story. The fact that they had 3 out of the top 5 should be the lead in that. But
a wide receiver who doesn't, a wide receiver that does not return punts, Drew. The previous 2 wide receivers who won the award, Desmond Howard, Tim Brown, right?
Yes.
They were special teams returners as well. That is what separated them in terms of winning the award.
You haven't watched the highlights of the returns?
By who? Those guys?
No.
Smith?
Yes.
He does. Does he return punts
he's returned some punts, if I do remember.
Okay. See, I haven't seen any of them go to the house. I guess he's returned some.
But 100 catches is 100 catches.
Okay. Now that's funny you say that, because the other young man. See, I guess what I find interesting is, he had 100 catches. Now, when I saw that stat, that was kind of eye popping. I was like, wait a minute. He had 100 catches in a college season.
Keep in mind, Bryan, he was not the number 1 option on their team.
Yes, that's my
season. Jalen Waddle was the number 1 option on their team, and probably if Waddle does not get hurt as a return person,
Waddle might be the guy.
Is the guy. So here's the question: is it the system or is it the player? Keep in mind, last year you had Waddle, you had Henry Ruggs.
Ruggs. Judy.
Judy.
Yep.
So you had 4 wide receivers on that team that are going to be top 10 picks.
Right.
In consecutive years.
Yeah.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Your quarterback room: Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah. And Devontae Smith didn't thank any of them during his Heisman Trophy acceptance speech. Isn't that crazy? He thanked everybody but the quarterback, the guy who throws him the damn ball.
Yeah, he needs to thank the D-backs for not covering him. That's what we need to be thanking.
So look, man, we'll stick to sports, but man,
that
was crazy.
Real quick, Bryan, who you got Monday night?
I can't go off of Alabama. I can't go off of Alabama. Can't go off of them. I mean, I mean now what's interesting, the last time Ohio State was in the national championship game was the Cardell
Jones. Yes.
And that was
they beat Alabama in the semifinals.
Yes, they had a ridiculous game. They had an amazing performance in the semifinal. Actually, they had like a run where they just played ridiculously well and won the title in the Big Ten championship game, the semifinal, and the championship. They were just hot. So yes. Who knows? Maybe that continues again, but I got a feeling Clemson broke up my man's ribs. Somehow, some way, his ribs don't look right. Justin Fields. I don't I gotta go Bama.
Now for the other half of the question that you had.
Oh man.
All right. There are now 3 days that will live in infamy. December 7th, 1941, September 11th, 2001, January 6th, 2021.
Wow.
That's we are not a political show. We are a distraction to the political show. Everybody on your Facebook, by Facebook,
yep.
your Twitter, by Twitter, who looks like you.
I haven't even looked at Instagram
yet. And looks like me.
Yeah.
Have basically had the same comments about unfair treatment.
What they're seeing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, unfair treatment and what we're seeing. I'm not gonna get off of that. That's a whole nother show. That's a whole other side of Drew that we're not gonna get into right here, right now, Ryan. So
you know what I find
just follow my Twitter feed and you will see some of my opinions.
At Bcsn Drew, definitely. Yes. What I find really interesting is that I heard comments, maybe I read tweets that said, oh God, I can't even recall. Now it slips my mind. There's so much that the similarities between this and what we saw earlier in 2020.
Similarity or the
the similarities in what was happening, and what wasn't similar was the response. That's what was not similar.
Yes.
That's where I was going with that. So
okay. And the tone of the skin of the people who were
exactly. So yeah.
The only thing that I could think of in my lifetime, in your lifetime, Brian, since we are about the same age, that I have seen like this was 1989 when the Berlin Wall came down.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I could compare, and I did tweet out an image of that next to the White House today for comparison.
Yeah. Some of the images, man, I tell you, some of the images are amazing, and I'm sure anyone who is not in a bubble or not working a 12, 13-hour shift, you've got to be scratching your head saying, man, what the hell is going on? So with that said, we move to transition to sports. But before I do that, I want to remind you, make sure you visit our website, the Black College Sports Network, mybcsn.net. Make sure you're following us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at mybcsn1, the number 1. As you heard, Drew, find him at BCSN Drew. You can find me at DRB365. And make sure you download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. That's where you can get a update every time our show goes live, as well as Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, which airs on Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Every time our shows go up live, you will hear you will receive a notification. So go to the Google Apple Play Store. My JBN or My BCSN is what you need to search for to find the app. And last plug, make sure you're listening to us on the podcast. If you're not one of those people who like to watch the YouTube version, you can simply just hear our voice instead of looking at our pretty mugs. And then just everywhere that you get podcasts. I mean, we're everywhere. iHeart, Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere, right, Drew? Everywhere you get podcasts.
Yes, sir.
Make sure you like and subscribe and rate positive reviews, and then share it with a couple people. So I've seen a lot of positive comments over the last few days, Drew, on with our conversation that we had with FAMU football coach Willie Simmons and athletic director Courtney Gaucher. So that was pretty positive. Seeing some of the comments and reviews, and a lot of people saw it. Any comments or things that you saw or heard from people regarding that show that we did?
Just a lot of positive comments. We had a lot of views of that particular show. So it was just good to be watched like that. And if your favorite HBCU wants a show like that, have their sports information department, head coach, athletic director get in contact with us. We'll be more than happy to do it for any HBCU that we have out there.
Yeah. Well, we're full mode into basketball. We've got a few other things that we'll do related to some football notes and some football stuff that we still have in the pipeline that we're working on. But obviously, with the start of the year, football season or basketball season started essentially in the SWAC and MEAC conferences over the past weekend at the start of the year. So let's start, Drew, with our BCSN rankings and our players of the weeks. We have new rankings for the large school and small schools, both men and women's. And we've got new players of the week. And again, these are from essentially the last week in December, which essentially goes from last week in December into maybe the first couple of days of January. I think Sunday, January 3rd was the cutoff date. So we usually do this from a Monday to Sunday. So these are games played Monday through Sunday. But let's go through the rankings. Let's start with the large school rankings, Drew. I'll read them off, and maybe any kind of movement that happened, maybe you comment on the movement from one position to the other and maybe why that occurred. So I'll start from 5 to 1. In the men large schools, number 5, Grambling State out of the SWAC with a record of 3-5. Hampton University comes in at number 4 with a record of 4-5. Morgan State sits in the middle at the 3 spot with a record of 3-2. Alabama A&M still unbeaten at 2-0 is number 2. And sitting at number 1 is Norfolk State with a record of 4-3. And these are for games played through January 3rd. So, Drew, what kind of movement did we have in the polls?
This was men again, Bryan?
Yes, sir.
Not a whole lot. I believe A&T happened to move down. I just lost it on my screen right here. Give me a second so I can pull it back up.
I'm sorry. I thought I tried to set you up I tried to throw the lob while I dribbled a few times, and I thought you'd be able to catch it, but
see the problem was I was looking at that pretty girl in the crowd and missed the pass, my brother, because I was trying to show off.
Well said. So I'll go back to, so from last week, Let me set it up for you here. I'm looking at it right now. I got it on the website.
All right, throw that pass again. Grambling and Hampton moved into the poll.
Right.
Prairie View and Texas Southern moved out of the poll. Also moving out of the poll was Norfolk State and
not moving
Alabama
out. Not moving out, moving up.
No, moved down.
No, Norfolk State moved up.
Yes, correct. You're correct. Alabama, A&M, and Norfolk essentially switched spots in the poll.
What was the reasoning behind that, Drew?
Basically, Norfolk played, Alabama, A&M didn't.
All right. So winning a game matters.
Winning the game mattered.
Being unbeaten doesn't, Drew.
In the ranking formula.
Once again, our rankings continue to baffle me, but it is a formula, and I'll just leave it at that. So
it's a computer formula.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move over to the small school polls. Going down from 5 to 1. Games played through January 5th. Now, this is a little bit different, Drew, because unlike the other poll, which went through 1-3, these go through January 5th. So
wrong dates entered in on the web page. It's actually through the 3rd.
Okay, we're off to a great start. All right. I love it. I love shows like this. All right, here we go. Counting it down from 5 to 1. Edward Waters, number 5 at 3-2. Lincoln, PA, 3-0. Again, their season is over. So I imagine eventually they will move out of our top 5, just a matter of when.
Yes.
Number 3, Philander Smith with an even record of 5-5. Lincoln, Missouri comes in at number 2 with a record of 4-2. And Talladega College, number 1 team, with a record of 8-2. Drew, talk about the movement
there. Basically, same teams, different order. To sum it up, were not a lot of games played at the small schools level. Most of your smaller schools took the holidays off and just got back into action. There were 1 or 2 games played post Christmas. Did a couple of games on the Saturday after New Year's, but that was pretty much all that you had in there. So that's why you didn't see a whole lot of movement in the small school polls.
Well, but Drew, in term maybe not new teams, but definitely a reshuffling though, as Lincoln, Missouri moved from 3 to 2 by courtesy of their win. And how about Philander Smith? I guess it was Edward Waters.
It was Edward Waters moving down by courtesy of those 2 losses versus Philander Smith, because Philander Smith didn't do anything.
But Philander jumped 2 spots and didn't do anything. They went from 5th and jumped up to 3rd.
Correct.
And Lincoln, PA dropped 2 spots and they didn't do anything.
Once again, the formula. I'm messing with you. I'm going to mess with you all season about the formula here. So,
yeah.
And the one other thing, even with the team not playing, your strength of schedule may change based upon who the opponents play. So your strength of schedule formula is going to change every week, whether you play or whether you don't play.
Okay. See, now if you would have said that, I got you sweating over there, but if you would have said that from the get-go, see that come on, Joe, I'm gonna turn you into Joe Lenardi eventually. I'm gonna have you doing bracketology stuff, but you got to be quick on your feet when I throw these hardball questions at you there, Drew. Come on now.
Gotcha, my brother. Gotcha.
All right, let's jump over to the women's side. The rankings for the women's division. We're going over to the large schools first. These are games played through January 3rd. Our top 5 in the women, starting at number 5, North Carolina A&T with a record of 1-1. Texas Southern is number 4, also with a record of 1-1. Number 3 is Alabama A&M with a record of 2-2. Morgan State comes in at number 2. Morgan State dropping in the polls. And our new number 1 is Howard University with a record of 5-2. Thoughts, Drew, or any thoughts on the, or any comments, I guess, on the numbers as you saw them in our formula?
Howard's on the roll.
Yes, they are.
Even though they split with Morgan over the weekend, the Lady Bison are on a roll, and had probably one of the better non-conference seasons that we've seen in a long time for an HBCU.
Yeah, no, I definitely would agree, and give them props to them for being able to get 7 games in. I think that's impressive. Given some of the layoff that the men are dealing with, I think it's impressive that Howard women are actually getting games in and being able to play. And we'll talk a little bit about more. We'll talk more about that in a little bit about the Howard men. Let's jump over to the small schools games played through January 3rd, not 5th. Number 5, Philander Smith with a record of 1-2. Number 4, Dillard University with a record of 1-2. Xavier with a record of 2-2. Florida Memorial 4 up and 4 down, number 2 spot, and Talladega College coming in to sweep for the men and women. So the number 1 men and the number 1 women's program in our rankings, Talladega College. All right, Drew, defend the numbers here.
Well, this was not going to be that hard. The only team that played this during the break was Florida Memorial, and they happened to pick up a win.
All right. Well said. Not much.
Not too much I can say on this one.
Not too much happening there. So I guess I guess you're off the hook on that one. All right, let's go to our players of the week. For the men, the players of the week, January 5th, starting in the large schools. How about Blake Harris, North Carolina A&T State? Blake Harris, 6'3" junior guard from Chapel Hill, averaging 18 points and 3 rebounds. Drew, what a big week for the young man from Chapel Hill.
Yes. And now my internet is running a little slow as I'm trying to pull up the write-up. Blake Harris, Chapel Hill, averaged 18 points, 3 rebounds as he led the Aggies to a 2-0 record on the week, with both victories against South Carolina State in BIAC action. Yes, we know South Carolina State is one of the bottom 5 teams in Division I basketball, but it is a conference foe, and anytime you play a conference foe, anything can happen. And on Saturday's game, he had 19 points and 2 rebounds with an assist. Sunday, he followed that performance up with 17 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 steals.
Yeah, basically coming off the bench, dropping some valuable points and production off the bench. And how about the rematch games? I know we'll talk about that here in just a moment. That was one of a couple of rematch games. And as I was browsing through the rematch games, that was the only one I think that was a sweep. So
in this particular week, yes.
In this particular week, right.
Yes, because Hampton got one earlier in the season against whoever they played last week. I believe it was Gardner-Webb.
Right, it was Gardner-Webb, as I said. Okay,
yes.
Small school player of the week, Cameron Bryce of Talladega College, a 6'5" junior from Tulsa, Oklahoma. 13.5, 2.5 rebounds. The Tornadoes were 1-1 this past week.
Yes, Cameron had 13 points. He averaged 13.5 points, 2.5 rebounds to lead the Tornadoes to a 1-1 record in a pair of non-conference matchups. In the loss versus Arizona Christian, Bryce led the Tornadoes in scoring with 14 points, adding 5 rebounds and an assist and a steal. And in the victory versus Lyon College, he scored 13 points.
All right. So, again, large school player of the week, Blake Harris of North Carolina A&T. Small school player of the week, Cameron Blake, I almost said Tornado College, Talladega College, Talladega Tornadoes. Congratulations to those two young men. All right, let's go over to the women's side. Large school and small school players of the week. First time we've heard this young lady's name this year, and I don't think it'll be the last. Ms. Amisha Williams of Jackson State. I believe she was the defensive player of the year in the SWAC last year. 6'4" senior from Gulfport, Mississippi, Drew. It's about time. I know folks in Jackson State were like, hey, man, when are y'all going to get Amisha when is she going to be worthy of player of the week? Well, she had a good week last week.
Yeah, like I said, I'm surprised this is the first time we've heard her name this year. And open it up against Alabama A&M, who is ranked number 3 in our current poll. She had 14 points, 18 rebounds in the victory over the Lady Bulldogs.
Yeah, 64-56 victory. Pretty good win on the road. That was a road game for Jackson State as well in that win. Moving over to the small school player of the week. And Drew, are you on our website?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so you see what I see then. All right,
Yes.
So clicking on the small school players here, it's Kiana Tolbert, Florida Memorial from out of Orlando, the 5'7" junior. She's the leading scorer in the Sun Conference right now. She's averaging she scored and hit her average 22 points in the contest this past week. Drew, Miss Tolbert, she's a heck of a player, and anywhere that Florida Memorial is going to go this year, it's going to be on her shoulders.
Yes, you are correct. And not only is she leading the Sun Conference in scoring, she's top 10 in NAIA in scoring also, Brian. So, this particular game, like you said, 22 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. As our BCSN number 2 small school ranked Lady Lions had a victory over Sun Conference rival Warner, Florida, on this past Saturday. And also, Brian, Florida Memorial women picked up their first victory at home on the season. So those 22 points went a long way into getting that victory.
Their first conference home win?
No, their first home win, period.
That doesn't seem right. Really?
Yes, that's their first home win, period, this year.
Okay. It feels like I'm trying to recall the other 2 games.
Well, the other games, they've only played conference games at home.
I'm trying to think. They lost the one game that they blew the lead on, and the other game
they made the comeback and did not catch them. This is on their 3rd home game. They were 0-2 at home.
Okay, wow. All right. Yeah. Hey, you're right. I didn't even process that. That. All right. Good job. Had a good conversation with Coach Stanback for his coaches show. So we'll see. That was a good win for the Lions, and we'll see what they do this upcoming week. They have a pair of winnable games against, I believe, Thomas University, which is right now they're a little down. They're a little down in the conference standings. And then I believe the College of Coastal Georgia, I think that's what it is, College of Coastal Georgia. And in the standings, they sit right there with Florida Memorial. So who knows? Florida Memorial could pick up a couple of wins.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Because the fight isn't over yet.
You will see me choose to protect my community by wearing a face cover.
And even with my face covered,
you will see me.
As a son.
As a man with a never quit attitude.
As a fighter for change.
Join me in wearing a face cover.
To help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Because this is one small act of kindness
that has the power to make a big difference.
Let's face it, shopping for insurance can be time-consuming. That's why when it comes to your auto, home, and life insurance needs, make things simple and trust the experts at Allstate. They will help you get the coverage that fits your needs while helping you bundle your life, home, and auto policies. Bundling saves you money, sure, but it also saves you time, so you can enjoy the things that matter most even more. Contact me, Tammy Haynes, your local agent, for a free personalized insurance quote. Allstate, are you in good hands?
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the Bcsn app. As we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Through the action this past week, we're recording this in the middle of the week, so we've got conference play that started up right after the first of the year. I wanted to just kind of go through just some games and just some observations that we both might have in the men and women's games from the SWAC and the MEAC. Haven't had a lot of games played on the smaller division levels, although it's starting to crank up a little bit. First thing, obviously from Saturday, from the past weekend, you had the debut. We had Mo Williams' debut for Alabama State, and I will say they had two games, Saturday and Monday. And I will say there's a reason why teams play non-conference schedules.
They still haven't scored 50 points yet.
Why you play preseason games.
Why you play exhibition games.
Why you play exhibition games. My God, Alabama State needed games before. It's a shame that they had to start their season with conference play because it may take them about 8 games to really get warmed up after what I saw in the 2 games.
Not only that, but the offensive system, and you can tell he's probably trying to put in a NBA type system, and without having those just those reps going up and down against each other, it makes it tough. And because of COVID and other things, according to the broadcast that was on ESPNU on Monday, they've only had 8 practices, Brian. 8 practices.
Yeah, well, when you think about all the factors, you have practically a brand new squad. I mean, if I recall, there's like 10 or 11 new guys on this roster, right? Yeah. New coach, new system, not playing a non-conference schedule. You got the COVID issues, and then of course, unfortunately for Mo Williams, he gets to coach the first game, but tests positive for COVID afterwards, and so he's out for the second game. Not sure how long he's going to be out, but you got to imagine maybe a week to 10, 14 days, depending upon what the SWAC policy is. So it's just a bad start for Alabama State. I'm sure it'll get better going into late January and February. But man,
And let's take it one step further. The women still haven't tipped off.
Well, no, okay, they have tipped off, and you kind of mentioned it. We'll talk about them in a second. They got a big win to open up their season the other day. The women did. So they have managed to get off a game. Just a couple of stats, a couple of things when I watched that Grambling State, Alabama State game. I didn't do the math, but I'm not surprised when I go back and look at the box score and I see that each team had 20 turnovers, because I watched maybe about 10, 15 minutes of that game, and I think I saw about 30 of those 40 turnovers. I'm just saying. And the Gramblings had a few games under their belt, but just the pace and just they
got enough games under their belt to make it to number 5.
Yeah. Alabama State shot 18 of 59 in that game, 30%. The worst stat was they were 2 of 20 from behind the 3-point line. That was pretty bad. So yeah, and then I think the second night they played Jackson State, they shot even worse from the field, 13 of 47, which is 27%, and 3 of 10 from the 3-point line. So,
Bryan, and I really want to see what the number is. I want to see what the 3-point percentage is at the end of the season, with the new 3-point line being about a foot and a half, 3 inches further back than the old 3-point line, along with the limited practice time that you've had this year, to see what type of drop in 3-point percentage that we're going to have.
You think there's going to be a difference?
I think there's going to be a significant drop in the 3-point percentage in men's college basketball this year compared to last year.
Huh.
You're not getting as much practice time, which means because of COVID and other things, kids aren't able to get in the gym and get those extra shots up that you would normally get as you just work out on your own, because facilities are closed and not as open as freely as they have in the past. Plus, the shot is, 15 inches further than what traditional 3-point shot had been. The old line was 20 feet 9 inches. The new line is 22 feet. So that foot makes a difference. That foot and 3 inches makes a difference in the shot. Now that shot becomes a mid-range shot, which used to be a 3-point shot.
I guess part of me just thinks about how deep guys have been pulling anyway, that I don't.
But deep pulling, but consistently deep pulling. None of these guys are Steph Curry who are consistent at that range. Everybody can hit a 25-foot jump shot, but can you make it on a consistent level?
Okay, I see what you're saying. Good point. But let's pay attention to that. I guess we'll kind of maybe
look at it at the end of the season.
Yeah. Might be worth looking at it now, and then looking at it in a month, or looking at it in February, and then also looking at it at the end of the year and see that the numbers go up at all, just to kind of give some kind of track. Because remember, they only have really played a month anyway. I mean, because most teams, everybody started the last week in November.
Yes.
Right. So they've only played 5 weeks as it is. So this is probably week 6 of the season. The other game in the SWAC from the weekend that had me buzzing with all kinds of interest was a matchup between two of the lowest rated teams. That's according to Massey ratings, not the BCSN, Massey ratings. Two of the lowest rated teams in NCAA Division I basketball. That's Mississippi Valley State and Arkansas Pine Bluff. Drew, I think our last show, or maybe one of the shows before that, we kind of talked about the rankings or the ratings on those. And with Chicago State bowing out, deciding that they've had enough, I think it was Mississippi Valley State, which took and they might have even been statistically already worse than Chicago State. But I think Mississippi Valley State, probably somewhere along with Arkansas Pine Bluff and South Carolina State, rated as one of the worst teams in Division I. Do you recall what those numbers were from a couple of weeks ago when we talked about this?
All I remember is HBCUs made 8 of the bottom 20 when it came to the Massey scale in men's college basketball. And I believe that was 6 of the top 10 that were HBCU programs. So quickly going up the updated Massey ratings, and I will go in reverse order.
This is bottom up.
Mississippi Valley.
Still listed as the worst.
South Carolina State.
Second worst.
Chicago State.
No longer playing.
Delaware State.
Wow. Third, I guess you call them third worst.
Third worst active.
Third worst active. Jesus.
Oh, let me keep going.
Oh, man.
Alabama State.
Wow. Already, huh?
Alcorn State.
What was okay. And that's even with the win from Alcorn State, right?
Wait a minute. Hold on. Alcorn State. Wait a minute. I'm not done.
Oh, you're not done?
Yeah. None of those teams have a win. Howard, with their 1 win, is next. You get to Charleston Southern to finally break it.
So the bottom 5 the worst 5 active are all HBCUs.
Correct.
Ooh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make that 6, Brian.
Bottom 6 active.
Yes. Wait a minute. Skip a spot. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Number 11.
No, let's just stop. Let's just stop there. That we don't have to go we don't have to go further up or down that list, because right now I don't know if we call that the 5 the bottom 5 of misery, or the miserable 5, or I don't know, however you want to rank it, but that's pretty bad.
Let's just put it like this. There are 3 HBCUs in the next 10.
Okay. Well, I don't want to know who those are. I just want to focus my attention on those bottom 5 and see how quickly those bottom 5 can get out of the bottom 5. That's what needs to. That's the focus.
Okay.
We're rooting for those bottom 5 to get out of the bottom 5.
Here's the problem, Brian. With 3 of our HBCUs in the next, we've got 6 of the top 10. So with 3 of our HBCUs in the next 10, if one of them come out, they're probably going to be replaced by somebody else.
Damn it, man.
I'm just saying.
I don't know what you're saying, because we got to do. This is bad. This is bad. This is historic bad. I don't know. Maybe it's not historic bad, because I feel like our conferences and our schools get picked on a lot, but this just feels bad. It feels worse than normal.
And some of them, unfortunately, have lived up to the billing.
But in that contest, Arkansas Pine Bluff beats Mississippi Valley State by 40. 40. And I think we talked about some of the losses that both Pine Bluff and Mississippi Valley State had experienced. So for Mississippi Valley State to lose by 40, yeah. So that Saturday was supposed to be a great debut for the SWAC, but you end up with 3 games getting postponed. Prairie View's game at Southern, Texas Southern's game at Alcorn, Jackson State's game against A&M, Alabama A&M, got postponed. Of course, Jackson State was able to play the next couple of days later against Alabama State. But on that Monday, you had 3 games. Obviously, you had Texas Southern and at Southern. Those 2 teams must be dealing with issues. Grambling at Alabama A&M. So the issues must be revolving around Alabama A&M. And then Prairie View at Alcorn. Both teams also postponed games on January 2nd. So we'll be looking to kind of see, Drew, whether there's any kind of adjustment or what type of adjustments to the schedule we get. Saturday, though, right now, fingers crossed, Drew, we have a full schedule. 5 men's games are on the schedule. To my knowledge, none of them have been postponed yet.
Yet is the key word in this.
Yeah. Now that's all according to the schedule I've seen on ESPN. I haven't checked those schools' individual sites, but it looks like if everything holds, the feature game will most likely be 2-5 Texas Southern at 1-4 Prairie View A&M.
And by the way, Bryan, speaking of Texas Southern, they are the top-rated men's HBCU on the Massey scale at 200.
Okay. Good. Well, good for them. So we'll wait to see what happens. Of course, Mississippi Valley State winless, Alabama State winless, Southern winless, Alcorn State winless. All 4 will be looking to see can they get a win against their opponents. Moving over to the MEAC from over the weekend, Florida A&M almost pulled off another upset. It was almost a year ago, or just a little over a year, where Florida A&M went on the road and got a win against Iowa State. They were breathing down South Carolina's neck pretty much for, 38, 39 minutes in the game this past weekend, but FAMU fell short 78-71 against South Carolina. I think if I recall, South Carolina hadn't played a game in maybe a month, or at least 2 or 3 weeks. So they were probably just getting out of their COVID issues. And FAMU has been relatively healthy, but other teams around them have been canceling games left and right. I mean, they've sort of survived, and they're still dealing with that in the MEAC as their upcoming contest against North Carolina Central. They had a back-to-back. That got canceled. So props to the FAMU men. You guys stay healthy because everybody else is sort of dropping and dealing with things all around you. So props to them. But we did have we talked about that rematch game. North Carolina A&T opened up the season with a pair of victories over South Carolina State. Let's see, they beat them by 11 the first night and beat them by 7. So 9-point victory in the first night, 7 in the second in a rematch. What do you think the strategy? Drew, what do you think the strategy might be for a lot of these teams in these rematch games?
Don't let the same guy who beat you last night beat you again tonight. and the reason I say that, when you go and look at the stat line for these back-to-back games, very rarely do you see the person who got off night 1 get off on night 2.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, and if your main option for your team, if you lost, did not get off, let's get them the ball in their spots in game 2 so that you can do it. And the other thing that you have to worry about is complacency from the team that won on night number 1. Hey, we just went in here, especially if you get the victory on the road. We just went into their house and we just beat them by 10 or by 12. We got these guys. So you don't go back to the hotel. You don't study film. You just don't focus on the next game. So you don't come to the arena as prepared as you did night 1. So also keep in mind, see how many of the road teams lose night number 2. looks like all these games are Saturday, Sundays. So one thing that when I was coaching ball, what you used to hate was you would have to check out your hotel 1 o'clock in the afternoon a lot of times with your late checkout, but you don't have a game till 7 o'clock at night. So you had that big 4 or 5 hour gap. But it looks like they're playing most of these games at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And day number 2, you're probably not doing a shoot around because you played the night before. So you want to save your legs by not playing the night before. But the other team, familiar with their rims, familiar with their gym, it's probably a lot easier for them to go back in there day 2, the home team on day 2, and pick up the victory. But it's something that we'll track throughout the season to see what kind of numbers we can pull out of this.
Well, as we go through some of the notes here, I've got at least a pair of rematch games. So your point, you already mentioned that New Hampton already had the one where they won the rematch.
Yes.
They
won their first set, but then they lost the second one. They won game 1 on the second one.
That's where I was going to go. Yeah, that's where I was going to go. So I mean, so what I was going to get to is we've got two teams that have won the double headers. Yeah. I guess if we're calling that the double header games. I don't know if that's really the right word. Back to back. There we go. Thank you. Two teams have won the back to backs. I don't think anyone else has.
Yeah.
So and the reason I brought that up because real quick. Also, we got to give a shout out to Morgan State. Morgan State with an 80-73 win over James Madison on Saturday. Detorian Ware, 18 points in 21 minutes off the bench. Morgan State 4-2, 3-0. Where Morgan State sitting pretty. Where are they in our rankings?
3.
Number 3. Yeah. So shout out to Morgan State. Nice win. Now, the games that have been, well, let's go more positive before we go to the negative. I think we should definitely give a mention to Coppin State. Coppin State. Here's another. Okay, so Coppin State will be the 3rd team to win back-to-backs as they won a pair of games against Delaware State a couple of days ago, Monday and Tuesday, 86-78 in game 1, 81-77 in game 2. DeJuan Clayton, 32, 5, and 6. Already trying to get, on the watch list for player of the week for this week here. And then the next night, he and Kobe Thomas with 18 each in the rematch game. And Coppin State, Drew, Coppin State. I got a sneaking suspicion Coppin State may make a push to get into our top 5 going into next week. What do you think?
Possibly. They are not even on the outside looking in as of right now, but an impressive week could really vault them considering some of the teams that have lost and not playing this week.
2 win. Where did you say Del State was in that bottom 5 listing?
They're in that bottom 10. That's the only thing that will hurt Coppin State because you're playing a bottom feeder. So
yeah,
your ranking doesn't go up quite as much with the victory against teams you should beat.
Right. Okay.
Just leave it as it.
Yeah.
Norfolk victory over a Morgan State or somebody else like that in the conference that's a top-rated team or a Central. Look, on the BCSN ratings, if we expanded it out to 10, and I'm not going to give it the particular order, but A&T, Central, and Morgan in the MEAC are in our 10.
Okay. All right. Well said. A team in our rankings, actually one of the games that was postponed that should have happened as a back-to-back was Howard at Norfolk State. But Howard's been dealing with some issues, COVID related, I'm sure. 4 games, and actually their upcoming weekend games against Delaware State have been postponed. So that would be 4 games. And you did the math, or you read the release from Howard. Their next game won't be until, what'd you say, Martin Luther King weekend against Duke?
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, yeah.
Yeah, it will be exactly 1 calendar month away from competition. The last game was December 18th. They will next play January 18th.
Jeez. And then there's the report that came out by Stephen Gaither, HBCU Game Day, a couple days ago, that Howard, the shine on the Howard mantle, on the Howard trophy is sort of starting to fade a little bit. Yeah, look, they've had, obviously you had the McCord Maker injury. And then you notice it's been real quiet. We haven't heard anything about, we don't know. Obviously they haven't been playing any games, but we don't know if McCord Maker is.
It's second semester. We don't even know if he's in school, Brian. Let's be real.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, that's a question that we could just ask. But I mean, I just haven't seen any reports of what's going on. And you're hoping this whole thing with
Kyrie Irving.
Oh man, did we make a little bet on whether he would play more games than Kyrie Irving? I felt like I made that bet with somebody, or maybe that was off the air. I made that bet.
What's the push number?
Kyrie only played 9 games.
Okay.
McCord has played.
Yeah, I didn't think Kyrie played that many.
Yeah, I think it was a 9-game, maybe 8.5 game career. I don't know. But McCord has only played.
I'm taking the under right now.
McCord's only played 2 or 3. So if you were going to set the line at, let's just say 8.5 games, will McCord Maker play 8.5 games with Howard? You're taking.
I'm taking the under.
Jeez Louise. So anyway, back to Steve's report. Steve noted that obviously the doubleheader season opener against Norfolk State got suspended, but then one of the young men that came in as part of this class of transfers, Noel Eastern, who was a transfer from Purdue. That's where he played last. He's had a stop in between where he transferred from Purdue, was supposed to be going to Michigan. That didn't work out because of some issues about credits and grades. So then he was going to go pro. That didn't work out. And so then he said he was coming to Howard.
And apparently that didn't work out.
Or it hasn't worked out.
Yes.
Yeah. So look, all I'm going to say is, look, I had heard from media back in my home state of Indiana, where Purdue is. Purdue is in West Lafayette, Indiana. Noel Eastern averaged 5 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 6'7", 225. He started 62 games in 3 seasons. Excuse me. And look, the program and the coach that he was playing for, I mean, that's a solid program unless you've gotten to a point where you feel like you should be doing better or doing more. But really, look, all I know is some of the comments that I was hearing wasn't too glowing of Mr. Eastern. So I was a little surprised, honestly, when I first saw the reports that, oh, he's coming to Howard. Okay. Wow, that's interesting. So that was part of the story, in that he is apparently going to, step away from being at Howard to pursue his dream of being in the NBA. He said, after careful consideration of all my options and with the uncertainty of COVID-19, I've decided to opt out of the college basketball season to focus on my dreams to become a professional basketball player and train for the NBA draft. I'm signing with an agent and chase what I've always worked for. I genuinely want to thank Howard University and the coaching staff for the tremendous opportunity. Given the circumstances, might not be a bad move for him. Even though everybody's getting an extra year, college may not be for everybody. And, you have a better chance of playing professional if this COVID thing continues going the route it's going. Wouldn't you say?
Good luck, my brother. I'm not even gonna comment on that situation. He hasn't been in HBCU basketball long enough, Bryan, for us to even take up any more time on a Black college sports network.
The other part of Steve's article makes mention of Kulul Mating, a 3-star player, apparently that was thought to be going to Howard, part of the 2021 class, rated as the 33rd best power forward in the country, 8th best prospect in North Carolina. He committed to Howard back in November. I'm sure in sort of the buzz and the haze of all the McCord Maker being the 5-star recruit and all that good stuff. He's got apparently had 12 different offers and things of that nature. Had decided to go to Howard, but now he too has decided to reopen his recruitment. He thanks Howard for bringing him in with open arms, but he's going to reevaluate the situation, find a best fit for the next step in his basketball career. So I ask you, Drew, when you look at what's happening with Howard, how much do you weigh this on just the circumstances of the situation they're in? And I mean, COVID. How much is it because of McCord's injury has sort of taken him off the floor? And then how much it is possibly the hangover from last season?
First of all, the recruit from where was he from again, Bryan? Who was the recruit? I don't have it.
North Carolina is a young man.
He was not going to play with McCord Maker anyway.
True.
Number one. So McCord Maker is not a factor. It is except for it gave an opportunity for evaluation to see if McCord Maker was able to improve his stock, maybe. But how about just
the whole, in terms of McCord Maker and just the fact that, him shining a light, because that was all the buzz. Remember, all the buzz last year was he's shining a light on HBCU.
And that's what I'm getting at, Bryan.
Okay.
Because McCord Maker has not been on the floor to get for that evaluation, not only from an athletic point, but from a media and marketing point of view. So, it's kind of like, all right, we're back to the old Howard. Academic school, excellent academic school. Athletics, not quite so sure. And that's what that buzz is starting in. The high school in June was Howard. Mm-hmm. The high school now is Jackson State. SWAC is hot because of Dion. Yeah. SWAC is hot because of Mo Williams. MEAC is not. Howard losing his luster a little bit. Okay. Defections from the MEAC. Maybe all that's playing a factor into some of these kids decide not to go to these MEAC schools now.
Okay. Hey, I just thought it was an interesting story. Just found it real interesting. I want to make sure we give a shout out or give some a big game coming up in the MEAC. We hope it happens on Saturday. Morgan State 4-2 at Norfolk State 4-3. That would be our number 3 versus number 1 matchup. Large school in the BCSN rankings going at it. So we'll have to make sure we that we keep an eye on that game and see how that goes. Real quick before we take a pause, Drew, we got to give a shout out to what's been going on in the small schools. There haven't been a lot of games, but there have been a few, and we even had our first triple double of the HBCU season just the other night. Stillman College with an 89-73 win over Rust. And we got a triple-double alert, Drew.
Yes, we do. And...
Come on, quick pass. On your feet. Think. Come on.
All right. 89-73 victory over Rust. I had to take an extra dribble before I pulled up with the shot. Trey Petty, there it is. Trey Petty led the way as Stillman shot 50% from the floor and 52% from the three-point line, Brian. Well, there goes that theory, at least for that one game, Brian, about the three-point line. The three-point line affected the three-point shot. At least in this one game, it did not. As Stillman, the sixth opening day victory in a row for the Stillman Tigers, Brian. 6 years in a row they've won their first game of the season. In this particular game, Petty, 38 points, 14 rebounds, 12 assists, Brian. That is a solid triple-double. That means he didn't come off with 1 minute to go to make that extra pass or get to Russell Westbrook rebound just to get the triple-double. It looks like he earned it. Also in this particular game, Brian, he went, where did the free throw stats go? 11 for 17 from the free throw line and hit 5 threes in the game, Brian. Also in that game, got to give some shout outs to some other people. Darius Carter had 18 points and Derek Finkley had 12 for the Tigers.
I was just looking to see what Petty's size is. Looks to be a 6'2", 170 out of Huntsville, Alabama, if I'm looking at the roster correct. So not a big fella, but definitely, definitely worthy of consideration going into next week for our small school player of the week.
For Rust College, and usually, Brian, when you shoot 45% from the field, you're gonna get a victory in most of those games, which Russ did. But their Achilles heel was shooting 12.5% from the 3-point arc. So not good from deep. For the Bearcats, Davion Washington, 20 points. Ronald Smothers, 13 points. And Jordan Jackson had 12 points.
All right. Real quick, a couple other quick mentions. EWC got a 101-61 win over Bruton Parker. I believe they start GCAC play coming up next week or end of the week.
This week, yes.
Yeah, later this week. Bluefield State lost to Columbia International 90-77. Florida Memorial lost a game to Kaiser University by 3 or 4, I believe it was. A game that, they basically were trailing by 10, had a chance to actually trailing by 10, took a 3-point lead, and then gave up a 10-3 run at the end of the game. They were up by 3 with about 2:30 to play in that contest. So tough loss for Florida Memorial, but they're still sitting good in the middle of the Sun Conference. And this upcoming week, West Virginia State men and women tip off. Lincoln, Missouri men and women tip off. Both of those teams, West Virginia taking on Glenville State, Lincoln, Missouri taking on Nebraska Kearney. So those two schools will tip off their season in the next few days. And I think he even looked at the Red River. Apparently, according to the schedule, only Jarvis and Paul Quinn are playing this year, while Wiley, Texas College, Paul Quinn apparently are choosing not to play.
Houston Tillotson. Houston Tillotson is not playing. Paul Quinn is playing.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I had Paul Quinn twice. Yeah, that's Houston Tillotson. Thank you for catching that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, that's on the small school level. All right, quick little break.
You forgot Langston game was postponed this week also.
Oh, there was Langston. Okay, yeah, I didn't even catch that. Have they played any games yet this year? Langston?
No, they were supposed to schedule to open up this week.
All right, so we'll wait on Langston to start their season. All right, quick break. We're coming back. We're going to wrap it up with some tidbits from the women's side, and then a few final notes, and then we're going to be out on this episode. You're watching and listening to the Bcsn Sports Wrap. We'll be back right after these words.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
Follow the Black College Sports Network on social media at MyBCSN1, the number 1, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at MyBCSN1.
My God, it's another sad day in America.
Painful to be introduced to George Floyd during his last breath
with a cop's knee on his neck.
He deserves so much more.
How many black lives have to be taken before something is done?
We are not a threat.
I am shaking as I type.
This has got to stop.
We are sick of it.
We need conviction.
I just want us all to live.
Death will not stop until the powers that be are finally held accountable.
Don't look away from the truth until every one of us are free from white supremacy.
The world stands with you.
Criminalizing and killing of black and brown bodies is not new. It's as old as America. It's just getting filmed more.
Do you know what it feels like to be hunted? To have a new hashtag for a dead black person every single day? How does one plan a life if they aren't sure they will have a life to plan? Trayvon,
Armstrong,
Anderson,
Deborah Dance,
Megan Flanagan,
Michelle Lee
George Floyd. His name was George Floyd. Say his name. Say his name.
George Floyd. Say his name.
Say their names.
Once again, and always, we fight for justice.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Rest in power, beautiful. You didn't deserve this.
This is Bryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
At Hampton Law, our primary goal is to provide non-traditional yet effective solutions and redefine the approach to client legal concerns. As your trusted legal advisor, we believe in sophisticated, personalized services that eliminate the confusion and complexity sometimes associated with legal matters. Our high standard for client care and concern, coupled with our extensive legal knowledge and skills, make Hampton Law a resource focused on the protection of the client's interest and overall goals. We value our clients and truly enjoy working with them. Visit thamptonlaw.com to conveniently schedule an appointment online. Tamika Hampton Esquire, 1631 Rock Springs Road, Suite 336, Apopka, Florida, 407-494-1471. thamptonlaw.com.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town, trying to get down. It's like a
Welcome back to the Bcsn Sports Wrap. Bryan and Drew here. And just a little reminder, make sure you're checking the show out via all of our ways and means that we're putting it out there. If you're on YouTube and watching this on the Jericho Broadcast Network's YouTube page, which is my JBN Online, make sure you like and hit the little bell button so that way you get notified every time that we have a new show and upload, whether it be our show, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, or one of our other mini shows, a part of the Jericho Broadcast Networks. Those shows you can also get part of the Jericho Broadcast Networks app. Go to the Google and Apple Play Store. Just search my JBN or my BCSN to get that. And also, I want to encourage you to make sure you're downloading our podcast on everywhere you listen to podcasts, pretty much. iHeart Podcasts, Google, Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, Radio Public, all of them, Overcast. Even if you don't listen, just download, like, and subscribe. That way we get numbers, and it lets the algorithm know that you're interested in our content, and more importantly, lets them know you're interested in Black college sports. So we are part of the Black media movement, Black college sports movement, and we need as many and as much support as we can get out there on our stream. So I ain't too proud to beg, as the song once said. So just got to do that little plug. All right, Drew, we talked about the women's game. Let's make sure we get the women some love. From the past weekend, we had another back-to-back between Howard and Morgan State. We briefly touched on this, but Howard they only won one of the two games. We talked about those rematch back-to-back games. Howard won the first one against Morgan 73-48, and then they dropped the second game, the next one, by a score 71-58. And I think that first game, Jayla Thornton won her second BCSN Player of the Week, did she not, or was that the week before?
No, that was the week before.
Okay, so she dropped in 21-4-1. So obviously, Jayla, I don't know statistically where she's at in the MEAC, but I got a feeling she's probably one of the leading scorers in the conference, I would imagine. There was a doubleheader back-to-back between Coppin State and Dell State on Monday and Tuesday. And Coppin State got their first win of the year. Coach Lauren Harper, new coach, gets her first career victory. As that game went kind of back and forth all the way down the stretch. Coppin State ended up getting a layup with 23 seconds left by Jalinda Sally. She got that basket, and pretty much it was a close game. Pretty much it didn't get any higher than a 3-point margin in that entire fourth quarter. I went back and looked at the play-by-play and the scoring in that contest. So Coppin State won that 56-54. The next night, Dell State turned around and beat them 60-45, but don't let that margin really fool you, because the first three quarters were relatively close. And then Dell State just kind of pulled away in the fourth quarter with a 24-14 performance in that fourth quarter. And Dell State, look, Dell State is that team that they've got about 9 seniors, redshirt seniors on that team. That's, we've already seen them suffer a tough loss to Lincoln, PA, and then we saw them lose to Coppin. So Dell State, we're looking at them, expecting them to be a major player in the conference. And look, it's early, but right now they're starting in a bit of a hole, and we'll see if they can get themselves out of it, though. Moving right along, this upcoming weekend in the MEAC, the only back-to-back game that is scheduled for now is North Carolina A&T at South Carolina State. So we will see if those games happen. I say that now. I feel like I have to say that every time, because you don't know. We see games get canceled 24, 48 hours in advance.
By the time we drop this show, we probably have got 3 games canceled.
Well said. Moving over into the SWAC. the SWAT games from Saturday, we already mentioned the Jackson State game against Alabama A&M, where Amisha Williams got the 14 and 18. You had two games that were postponed: Grambling State at Alabama State, Texas Southern at Alcorn State. You also had UAPB getting an 85-70 win over Mississippi Valley State. Southern beat Prairie View 51-44. That's a low-scoring contest. Then on Monday, while I don't know where this game was played at, I'm trying to. I think this may have been actually before the men's game. Alabama State opened the season on Monday with a win over the SWAT champs, defending SWAT champs, Jackson State, 72-70. Alabama State, that's their first conference opening win. Am I saying that right? The first conference opening game win. Yeah, I think that's how you say that. Since 2015. So it's been about 5 years since they've started the conference play with a win. That's a good win for Alabama State, 72-70. Amisha Williams with the 2020 double-double, 25 points, 23 rebounds. Unfortunately, though, she didn't get a chance to get the game-tying or game-winning bucket. She had the ball in her hands there at the stretch, got it poked out of her hands by Alabama State player, which kind of sealed the deal.
And it looks like she's the leading candidate for repeat player of the week with a 2020.
Yeah, look, hey, and more importantly, she might be player of the definitely might be the player of the week in the SWAC. I think she already was. I just don't know I don't know how the SWAC does their games. It could have been from the Saturday, Monday games, which look, she balled out 2 double-doubles in back-to-back games. So she will. It'll be interesting. She will be in contention for player of the year this year, no doubt.
Yes.
Got to give props to Alcorn State women. They got their first win of the season on Monday earlier this week, 55-48 with the victory over Prairie View A&M. So Alcorn moves to 1-4. Any other women's notes, Drew? I was just
did you do Florida Memorial?
No, I did not.
Okay.
The game you're talking about, the game that we broadcast, right?
Yes.
Yeah. They beat Warner University in a 76-55 victory.
Correct.
A game Florida Memorial started down 6-0, didn't get their first points until about the midway to 3 minute mark, somewhere around 3:30, 3:20 something in that first quarter. And then actually what really separated the game was the second quarter. They outscored Warner 26-12 in the second quarter. I had a great conversation with Coach Gregory Stanback. And, one of the things that he talked about in that contest was that team's ability, or his team's ability, to sort of change up their style and change up from the full court press to the 2-2-1 to sort of a jump press or 3/4 court press. I mean, we saw a few easy buckets that they gave up, but overall, they forced 20+ turnovers. Warner really had a shorter roster or a shorter bench than Florida Memorial. And so I think the depth and the pace played to the advantage for Florida Memorial. And look, we've seen this Florida Memorial team really score points. Their problem is they got to stop somebody. No, really, our coach even said it. They're scoring, they're averaging almost 74 a game. The problem is they're giving up about 75 a game.
That's not good.
No, I mean, so if they want to be contenders, we know that you pointed out earlier, that was their first home win. The two other games were winnable games that they kind of
gave away.
Yeah, they gave away basically. You know, so they got to get tougher defensively. They have to make some free throws down the stretch. So free throws and just defense, because the offense is not the problem. They can score. They can score points. Can they stop anybody though? That's the $1 million. That's the $1 million question.
One other thing I wanted to bring up, Brian, if you take a look at the GCAC schedule, it's like they've got a couple of clusters, or like you kind of see in softball and baseball sometimes, where multiple teams come together in the same city and play each other. We've got a little cluster that's going to begin, I believe, on this either Saturday or Sunday in it's going to start on the 11th in New Orleans.
In New Orleans, right?
Yes. They'll be in New Orleans. So 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th, well, all 7 schools will descend upon New Orleans, and basically everybody will get 3 games in 4 days down in New Orleans.
Hey, you know what? That's smart. That really is a good idea to do it that way, and try to see what you can. I think if they do that a couple more times, you definitely can get these games in. I think it is one of the issues that all these schools are dealing with is the constant cancellation and rescheduling of games. So
and well, while the women are in New Orleans, all the men's teams will be in Talladega.
Okay.
Doing the same thing.
And Talladega has that new court, new gymnasium, new arena. So I mean that thing is brand new. So that's a good site, good place to have that game.
And I think they're doing the games at Xavier University in New Orleans.
Oh, they should. They definitely should.
And so all 4 games or all 3 games will be in the same arena on the same day. And then in February they'll flip-flop, where all of the men will go to New Orleans and all the women will go to Talladega and do the same thing the first week of February. So you'll be able to knock a lot of games out the way during that time, save on the travel, won't have to get in on the buses as many times. You just ride the bus up there, stay up there 3-4 days, do your hotels and come back instead of the long road trips for the kids.
Right.
And there'll still be some conference games sprinkled in between those 2 big clusters.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Good deal. Last little bit, I was taking a look at the SWAT women's schedule this upcoming Saturday, because I don't think they have any games prior to Saturday's matchups. You've got Alabama State at Arkansas Pine Bluff, Alabama A&M at Mississippi Valley, Texas Southern at Prairie View A&M. That'll be a marquee matchup. Southern at Grambling. I think also Alcorn at Jackson State. That'll be a good matchup as well this weekend. And none of those games are back to back or anything like that. So
I don't think the SWAC went with the back to back. The SWAC with traditional schedule, but they are trying to get 3 games per week, whereas the MEAC has done a lot more back to backs this year versus the.
Well, you say SWAC. 3 a week. I'm just seeing this. Okay, so they're trying to do Fridays, Saturdays, and Monday.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody won't play 3 though.
I thought it was Thursday, Saturday, Monday. What they were trying to do.
It varies. I think you're right. It's all blah. So I just know this upcoming week. I know this upcoming week they got Saturday games and then they have a Monday the 11th. So
yeah, and I know they I saw some Sunday games on the schedule also throughout the conference season.
Quick transition, Drew, to what's happening with Miles College. They had a release come out that said Miles decided to halt their season because of the uncertainty of the coronavirus. Miles had an option, and they were considering an option to play this upcoming season, but they're going to stick with their conference mates, and I guess they're going to try to play in March, although playing in March won't help them qualify for the NCAA tournament.
But they will get the opportunity to defend their SIAC championship.
Yeah, and I guess if everybody in the conference is going to play, and look, if everybody's going to play, you got a chance. You might as well just play it. Everybody gets an extra year anyway, so we'll just kind of see what happens. That's about the best you can do, and as more schools make the decision, or more people make the decision about what they're doing with vaccines and things like that, I guess we'll kind of see whether it happens. So of course I'm rooting for Miles. I'm rooting for teams to have an opportunity to play however they can, and if they can pull it off, great. I'm behind them 110%.
But we're not done talking about Miles yet, Brian.
No, we're not. What's the other little bit of news involving Miles, Drew?
Well, you won't see Tuskegee in the Labor Day Classic this year because Miles is playing Alabama State in the Labor Day Classic.
That's got to hurt your heart a little bit.
It doesn't hurt my heart. It's going to hurt Alabama State's pocket.
Oh, wow.
Assuming that we have fans.
Well, Miles is in Alabama. Are you saying they don't draw like Tuskegee?
No, they do not draw like Tuskegee. I will say that. No disrespect to Miles. No disrespect to Miles. But in the grand scheme of things, as far as teams that draw in when they play each other, for Alabama State, Alabama A&M is their number 1 draw. Tuskegee is their number 2 draw. Miles is number 3.
That game is scheduled for September 4th if it happens, Labor Day Classic 2021. Miles and Alabama State have played 25 times in the school history. They last met the 2016, Turkey Day Classic is the last time that Miles played Alabama State.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, sorry. We'll see.
Right.
We'll see,
basically, when Tuskegee pulled out of the Turkey Day Classic, Biles filled in a few of those years.
I think it makes sense to get somebody from the state of Alabama, somebody that it gives fans an opportunity to travel. I mean, look, you never know. Miles has had a good run the last 2 seasons. I mean, we don't know what their season will look like when they actually do get back on the field and who will be there, but we understand Coach Ruffin. We know they're going to be well coached, and they're going to be.
Coach Ruffin don't care who he play, where he play.
Oh, exactly. They're going to be well coached. I mean, that's a game you don't want to lose. I mean, it's already tough enough when you lose to Tuskegee, but you don't want to lose that game to Miles. I think they might have a good draw. I got a feeling they're going to have
it will. It definitely will. But we still not done in the state of Alabama, Brian.
No, there's more?
Yes. Gulf Coast Classic.
Oh, Gulf Coast Classic. What do we got there, Drew?
Savannah State will be traveling to Mobile, Alabama for the Gulf Coast Classic, which I believe is scheduled for March 14th. Do I have that date correct?
The spring version. The spring version.
Right, of the Gulf Coast Classic, which will feature a HWCU and an HBCU Classic.
Savannah State, man, I love what they're doing over there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I love what they're doing there, but they will be over there down in Mobile playing University of West Alabama.
Now, they still have to put a schedule together. Savannah State, obviously, with no one in the SIC playing, as far as we know, they don't have a lot of teams on their schedule. So
I know one team that we can put on their schedule that would be a good draw for them that's right up the road.
Who?
Edward Waters. Edward Waters is traveling to, who is it, Southern or Jackson State? They're traveling to one of those SWAC schools. I don't have it in front of me.
I mean,
so we know Edward Waters is competing.
And Edward Waters has a brand new stadium.
But
So,
I think if they run the schedule like it's supposed to, Edward Waters was supposed to be going to Savannah this year anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. But that would be a good game considering they're 90 miles apart.
Yeah.
That would get both of them 2 games.
Right. All right. Any other interesting news, notes, tidbits, anything that we left out? Anything else that you want to bring up before we pack it up and take it home?
No, let's just pray for our country, Brian.
Oh yes.
Let's just pray for our country. Pray for peace. And let the ignorance subside.
Cease, yes. Let the ignorance cease.
The ignorance, not ignorance, ignorance.
Yeah. Man, what a day, what a day, what a day. Again, like we started this show, never thought that we would see what we saw this week. So at this point, yeah, like Drew, you just said it best. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give plugs because I can't add to that. Follow him on Twitter at BCSN Drew, my Twitter handle at DRB365, and of course the Black College Sports Network at my BCSN1, the number 1. And make sure you're checking out the website mybcsn.net.
One last thing, Brian. Georgia, we did it.
Oh yeah, they flipped Georgia red too. Yeah.
Flipped it
I'm
from
sorry.
red to blue.
Well, flipped it from red to blue. Yeah.
Yes, we did it, Georgia. Good job, Georgia.
Yeah. Congratulations to you guys up there. All right, congratulations. One more time, a shout out to our large school player of the week on the men's side, Blake Harris. On the women's side, Amisha Williams. Blake at North Carolina A&T, Amisha at Jackson State. And then on the small school, our player of the week, Cameron Bryce of Talladega, Kiana Tolbert of Florida Memorial. Congratulations to those young people. And we'll see. We already got some people in the clubhouse for next week, and we'll just kind of see what happens over the rest of the week. Make sure you check out the podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts. Download it and save it. Subscribe, like, share, do all those things that help us continue to grow this show. That's going to do it for this episode. I am Bryan Fulford. He is AD Drew. We're going to mask up and stay safe and pray. And that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Peace out.
Holla.
Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports Network.
It didn't. What happened was a gentleman wanted to do the Black College Sports Network in partnership with the HBCU for these black colleges.
Absolutely.
And it would have educated the Black College Sports Network. This is what he wanted to do. That would have educated a lot of black kids. Okay. That was the real reason why I got into it, was when I saw what happened with the Black College Sports Network, which I.
But my beats, they are hard.